So as I've been talking about, as I've been very cynically and skeptically saying, during the talk with the European leaders, Trump said, and Zelensky, of course, that we are on the brink of getting peace. We are on the brink of making big progress. He said that he had a great conversation with Putin, which already makes my blood freeze considering how horrible a meeting that was. And he said that the next step is just to organize a trilateral meeting between himself, Zelensky, and Putin. This will inevitably lead to peace. And then all that is left is to discuss security guarantees for Ukraine via Europe with American support. And of course, my immediate response was, okay, what if Russia does not play ball when it comes to a trilateral meeting between Zelensky, Putin, and Trump? What if that is refused? And what if that doesn't happen? What then? Well, then, of course, the entire plan falls apart and we're back at square one and nothing was accomplished. And we are now at a stage where Trump has spoken to Putin privately, of course, because talking in the presence of any other European leaders or Zelensky would have been very disrespectful towards Putin, as per the words of Trump himself. And of course, let's not forget that the only reason that Putin wants peace, the only reason why Putin wants to make a deal is as a personal favor to Trump. There is a very distinct little statement made by Trump that was caught on microphone when he said that, as crazy as it sounds, Putin wants to make a deal for me. So Putin actually agreed to a meeting with Zelensky, one-on-one meeting with Zelensky, which will be followed by a trilateral meeting. The catch, of course, is that Putin said Zelensky can meet me. Zelensky can come to Moscow and meet me, which we all know is a terrible idea. Knowing Russia, I don't even have any doubts that moves to detain even or do something to Zelensky would be made on Russian soil. I have no doubt about that. Who knows what could happen to Zelensky if he chose to go to Moscow to conduct conversations 101. And of course, it feels like it's a horrible idea even if nothing would happen to him, to be quite honest, to hold these talks in Moscow, of all places. And I assume, of course, taking all these things into consideration, Zelensky has, of course, refused to meet Putin in Moscow, which can be interpreted by all sides in many different ways. We could see very well Trump throw a tantrum and say, oh, Zelensky is once again standing in the way of peace. He doesn't want to meet Putin, even though Putin has agreed to a talk. And now he just wants to prolong this. He doesn't want to play ball. He doesn't want to make a deal. That's a possibility. But maybe people will see reason and maybe people will see that Putin is proposing a meeting on unreasonable terms. Maybe that will also happen, but I would not hold my breath, because if there is anything that we have learned of this whole process since the beginning of the year, is that if Trump has any opportunity to pressure anyone, it's between Zelensky and Putin. It's always going to be Zelensky, without exception. The pressure is always going to be on Ukraine. It's always going to be on Zelensky, no matter what. President Vladimir Putin proposed that Volodymyr Zelensky meet him in Moscow for peace negotiations, but the Ukrainian president rejected the idea of holding talks in the Russian capital, the AFP news agency reported. Yeah, I cannot say that I blame him, but now we are in a sort of impasse. Once again, we are in an impasse where another counter proposal has to be made to Putin about a meeting. The meeting has to be organized. Putin has to agree to it, because of course, if a new avenue of meeting is proposed to Putin, he may say, well, I told Zelensky that I could meet him in Moscow and I'm not willing to meet him anywhere else. And again, this just prolongs it, just stalls, this just creates a situation in which there has been a lot of great words, about a lot of accomplishment, and yet at the end of the day, nothing is accomplished, nothing is done. It's just once again a lot of patting each other on the back, saying how much progress was made, while in the meantime, the reality of the situation is Ukraine is still being bombed every day, citizens are being terrorized every day, and Russia is pushing on the front line while European politicians congratulate themselves on being such great allies. That is the unfortunate reality from my perspective of the situation. And so far, it does not seem that the situation will get any better anytime soon. I will believe it where I see it, okay? I have stopped believing declarations. I have stopped being hyped about meetings. I have stopped being hyped about summits. I will believe it when I see it. I will believe it when I see some very specific moves towards this conflict coming to an end on under conditions that would be actually acceptable to Ukraine and its people.